how I, Christy Canyon, the living legend, decided to come back into films.
Hollywood was full of dreamers, but Christy Canyon, she was different. She was unforgettable. The 1980s, an era of big dreams, even bigger hair, and a Hollywood landscape bursting with stars trying to make their mark. Some chased fame relentlessly. Others, they simply had that magic, and the world noticed. Christy Canyon was one of them. But before the cameras, before the fame, there was just a girl from Pasadena, California, figuring out her path in life. She didn't come from a showbiz dynasty. She wasn't born into wealth or power. And yet somehow, destiny had other plans. So how does a name go from being just another face in the crowd to an unforgettable piece of pop culture history? It all started with one unexpected moment, a meeting that would change everything. And as the lights of Hollywood shimmered in the distance, Christy took a step toward a future even she couldn't have predicted. Every Hollywood story starts with a moment, as Joseph L. Mankiewicz might have written. A chance encounter, a twist of fate, or a decision made in the blink of an eye. For Christy Canyon, it all began with a simple business card, handed to her on an ordinary day, in an ordinary place. But what came next? That was anything but ordinary. Born in Pasadena, California, Christy wasn't raised in the glow of Hollywood. There were no silver screen ambitions, no childhood acting lessons, no desperate clawing for fame. She was like any other teenager in the suburbs, navigating school, friendships, and the uncertainty of what the future might hold. But sometimes destiny isn't something you chase. Sometimes it walks right up to you. It was the early 1980s, and Christy, then just a young woman figuring out life, was handed a business card that would lead her down a completely unexpected path. You know that scene in Casablanca?
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Well, Christy's moment wasn't in a gin joint, but fate still had a funny way of setting things up. One decision, one moment. And just like that, her life took a turn she never saw coming. What set Christy apart wasn't just her looks, it was presence. A rare kind of charisma that made people stop and pay attention. From the moment she stepped in front of a camera, she had it, that effortless confidence that couldn't be taught. She wasn't just another face in the crowd, she was someone audiences would remember, and remember her, they did. By the mid-1980s, Christy was a name. Interviews, magazine covers, features, she had officially arrived. She had that golden age Hollywood aura, the kind that made people sit up and take notice. But fame? It's never as simple as it looks. As they say in Sunset Boulevard,
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
And for Christy, the industry was evolving, but she wasn't about to let it shrink her down to just a footnote. The 80s were a cultural whirlwind. Hollywood was changing, the entertainment world was shifting, and staying relevant meant constantly adapting. For some, that pressure was suffocating. But Christy, she never seemed to be chasing fame. It was simply something she carried with her. For every bright light in Hollywood, there's always a shadow. Fame brings recognition, but it also brings scrutiny. The pressures of being in the public eye can wear on even the strongest personalities. The industry was fast-moving, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. A face that was adored one day could be forgotten the next. Christy had seen it happen to others, people who fought desperately to hold on to relevance, only to find themselves lost in the chaos of it all. It's the classic Hollywood dilemma. Do you fight to stay in the game, or do you walk away before the game consumes you? In The Dark Knight, they say,
you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
But Christy? She wasn't about to let the industry decide her ending. Unlike many, Christy was never trapped by the spotlight. She never seemed like someone who was afraid of life beyond the camera. By the late 1980s, after years of success, she made a decision few in Hollywood ever dare to make. She stepped away. Not because she had to, not because of scandal or failure, but because she wanted to. It was a move that shocked many. Hollywood isn't kind to those who leave. Most try to hold on for as long as they can, fearing that if they step away, they'll be forgotten. But Christy? She didn't fear being forgotten. She knew that sometimes leaving on your own terms is the greatest power move of all. Leaving one chapter behind didn't mean disappearing. Christy reinvented herself, proving that success isn't just about where you start, it's about how you adapt. She found new ways to stay connected to her audience, sharing her experiences, and becoming a voice of nostalgia for an era that many still look back on with fascination. Her decision to step away at the peak of her career gave her something most stars never get: a legacy untouched by decline. In Hollywood, they say, you should always leave them wanting more. Christy didn't just leave them wanting more, she made sure they'd never forget what she already gave. Even years later, her name still carries weight. The mark she left on pop culture hasn't faded. It's nostalgia. It's history. It's the kind of name that, even decades later, people still bring up in conversation.
Welcome back to the show. I am so excited to have a legend in the studio here.
And that's what separates fleeting fame from true impact. Some people spend a lifetime searching for their place in history. Christy Canyon? She secured hers and then decided how the rest of the story would be told. Hollywood has seen its fair share of stars. Some rise, some fall, and a rare few, carve out a legacy that refuses to fade. Christy Canyon didn't just step into the spotlight, she left a mark that time hasn't erased. She wasn't just a fleeting name in a decade of excess and reinvention. She was proof that success isn't just about how you rise, but also about knowing when to step away. Like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind.
After all, tomorrow is another day.
And Christy, she knew when it was time to turn the page and start fresh. But here's the thing about icons. You never really forget them. Whether it's the nostalgia of an era, the charm of a personality, or the story of a life well lived, their names stay in conversations, whispered like old Hollywood legends. Even today, Christy's name evokes a time, a feeling, a moment, frozen in pop culture history. Hollywood loves a good comeback story, but sometimes the real power is in walking away on your own terms. Christy Canyon did just that. And yet, her name, her story, her legacy, still here, still unforgettable. If you enjoyed this journey through entertainment history, please subscribe to join our community of classic cinema enthusiasts. Next week, we'll bring you another unexpected Hollywood journey. Until then, as Humphrey Bogart might say,
He's looking at you, kid.